This is Matt Pearce. Jesus Christ gave us the goals, but Gandhi gave us the tactics. Hello everyone, this is Matt Pearce. Quite a bit has happened since our last show out there in Hong Kong. Also on the show, we've had a few changes. Dr. Chan, sadly, has decided to move on, and so we'd like to thank him for his programs so far that he's done before, but he's decided to move on. And very kindly, Simon Lee, who was on the last show, has decided to take over from Dr. Chan, so he's going to be here every time from now on. But unfortunately, he can't make it for this show, but he'll be next time. Now, on this show, we've got Kenneth Lee.
Hello.
Who some of you might remember was on the show once before as a kind of a special guest. And we said to Kenneth, we want you on, but we want you to understand that we're only going to invite you just once. Don't get any ideas that we're ever going to bring you back again. But here he is. He's back again.
Thank you very much.
So you must have been okay last time.
Yes.
But we are hopefully he's going to be coming back every few months.
Yes.
So it's going to be me every time, and then there's going to be revolving guests with Simon Lee. Now, Kenneth, just remind people, you were doing a postgraduate course in Japan, weren't you?
Right.
But you finished that, haven't you? Is that right?
Yes, I've graduated from the university, and I finished my senior thesis.
That's right. And very kindly, you've given me a copy of the thesis, actually.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I will read this cover to cover,
Thank
actually.
you very much.
Because it's a genuinely interesting topic, actually. Just remind people again what it's about.
Well, it's about the media in Hong Kong. And I've been writing and investigating the propaganda that's happening in Hong Kong, and people's start to control their speech because of the pressure from Communist Party, and sometimes they just do some kind of correction of controlling their own speech just for not getting in troubles. And that's what my senior thesis is about. Yeah.
Well, it's very nice to have a copy, and I'm going to enjoy reading that, probably in bed or in the bath later tonight.
Please do.
And so anyone else who's interested in that topic, they can look for it. Kenneth Lee Kai Yin. You might be able to find a copy somewhere. And we can hopefully talk more about it in other shows,
Sure.
a bit more about, because I think it's an interesting topic, especially for our listeners, actually. But today we've got some other topics, because quite a bit has happened in Hong Kong since the last show. We want to talk later a bit about the policy speech and about the light bulb controversy and also LSD's protest in the chamber, and quite different views about that. Have some discussion about that. Before then, we want to have a discussion about, in my opinion, a very, very serious thing, a story that's come out in the newspapers about a dissident, a mainland Chinese activist, and his name was Zhou Yongjun. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Zhou Yongjun.
Zhou Yongjun. Okay. Now let me just remind people, some of you probably will, once I start talking about it, will remember about it. It's been in the papers in the past week or so, and he is a mainland Chinese activist who was involved in the Tiananmen Square protests, and he was imprisoned for a few years. He then went to live in the States, but recently decided to try to visit his family, he obviously, being who he was, he decided that the only way to do it was to get a passport, a false passport in someone else's name. So it was actually a Malaysian passport in someone else's name, and he went to Macau, and then he crossed over from Macau into Hong Kong to visit some relatives, and he was stopped by immigration. And they worked out that he was travelling on a false passport. And okay, fair enough. That is a crime. That is, a serious matter, and he should be dealt with under Hong Kong law. And for that kind of crime, you'd be looking at maybe a year in prison or something using a false passport. But what actually happened to him, according to his wife and the newspaper reports, is that he was taken by the immigration department of the Hong Kong government and unlawfully taken across the border into Shenzhen. And he's now in prison in Sichuan, and he's facing fraud charges. The mainland Chinese have said that he's going to be facing some fraud charges, which is potentially pretty serious, basically. But the issue is that it's the first case I can think of a citizen in Hong Kong who's been taken by the immigration department and basically put in the back of a car and driven across the border and dealt with under the legal system in mainland China. And that's totally against the idea of one country, two systems, and totally against the Constitution. And it's a serious concern, I think. And obviously the Hong Kong government have been completely silent about it. And we want to have some discussion about it, because I want to hear from Kenneth Lee and also Ken, our coordinator here. I'll be interested to know quite how it's been played out in the Chinese newspapers, and I'll say how it's been reported in the English newspaper a bit as well, I think. I mean, what's your immediate take on it? Who's going to volunteer first?
Okay, I'll try. But after reading this news, I was actually shocked. But on another hand, I think it's something that I predict that would happen. This kind of one country, two systems, I think it's just an illusion to a certain extent. And what's happening on the surface, it might look really different, like China and Hong Kong. Different. We have two governments, two separate governments, but on behind the scene, I think it's obvious that people understand that there's always only one government that's giving out orders. And from this case, I think it actually shows people that we actually don't have two systems. Yeah. And because the Hong Kong government officials actually didn't given any kind of comments on this case yet, so I think basically they're trying to avoid having a fight or having a discussion on this kind of matters, because it might make the real government angry in the north.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think, Ken?
Yes, I think it's the ideology of Hong Kong people is completely saturated by maybe they're just scared of the communists and the government in China. Especially in Chinese culture, when you grow up, your parents will tell you, be low profile, don't make trouble outside. Especially especially, when the police, if their eyes on you, just be calm and be a good person. I think that thing is really happening in Hong Kong. I remember Raymond Wong Yuk-man said in the Legco and sometime on his radio program, and he said that if you still believe there's real one country, two system, you are stupid. Yes. Actually, maybe for the administrative stuff is worked out by the Hong Kong government, but the real government, the big brother behind, is the Western District, the
Beijing liaison office.
Yes.
The guys there. Yeah. I mean, it is an extremely serious case, actually, and I was pleased that Albert Ho, the leader of the Democratic Party, has actually taken a a serious interest in this case, and it looks like he's going to do his best to follow through with it as much as possible. And I was